What is a green flag you've experienced on a first date that made you want to have a second date? She came to my door and my puppy got excited. Without skipping a beat, she scooped up the dog and asked where the three of us were going. That was 19 years ago. Puppy is gone, but we've stuck together through hell and back. First date, she was driving us to a spot to go hiking, about an hour's drive. We're talking and talking, but every once in a while we wouldn't be talking, and it just felt so comfortable and not awkward being silent together. The date was supposed to just be getting a drink or two. We stayed until the place was closing down, and even then the date wasn't over. We watched Donnie Darko and he made us cookies. We've been together for almost 10 years and married for 5. He took me out for coffee in a place that he made me choose. When I got there, he was already waiting, and the way his eyes shined when he saw me was really adorable. We ordered and played chess. His hand was shaking. It's been a year and counting. I asked if she wanted to go to McDonald's and split some fries because that's all I could afford at the time. She said sure. We talked a long time and split a large fries, and she was so chill about it. She wanted to be with me. Anywhere would have been okay. I knew if she was willing to go out with a broken, struggling me, she would also be willing to build a life with me from the ground up. We have been married 35 years, through ups and downs, kids, sickness, wealth and poverty. What is a green flag you've experienced on a first date that made you want to have a second date? She came to my door and my puppy got excited. Without skipping a beat, she scooped up the dog and asked where the three of us were going. That was 19 years ago. Puppy is gone, but we've stuck together through hell and back. First date, she was driving us to a spot to go hiking, about an hour's drive. We're talking and talking, but every once in a while we wouldn't be talking, and it just felt so comfortable and not awkward being silent together. The date was supposed to just be getting a drink or two. We stayed until the place was closing down, and even then the date wasn't over. We watched Donnie Darko and he made us cookies. We've been together for almost 10 years and married for 5. He took me out for coffee in a place that he made me choose. When I got there, he was already waiting, and the way his eyes shined when he saw me was really adorable. We ordered and played chess. His hand was shaking. It's been a year and counting. I asked if she wanted to go to McDonald's and split some fries because that's all I could afford at the time. She said sure. We talked a long time and split a large fries, and she was so chill about it. She wanted to be with me. Anywhere would have been okay. I knew if she was willing to go out with a broken, struggling me, she would also be willing to build a life with me from the ground up. We have been married 35 years, through ups and downs, kids, sickness, wealth and poverty.
It's story time, so make sure you grab a snack, sit back, relax, and let's get on with the chisme. Okay, so this is the other half about a kid having a crush on me. I'm gonna update it now since something new did happen. So does anyone remember how in the first half of the story that I posted a few days ago, at one point the little girl told me that if she can't have me, no one can? Well, let me just tell you guys that she nearly lived up to it, especially since she became my stalker. Now, for some background information, I do live 2 states away from her, so we don't live in the same city at all, and she ended up becoming my stalker, and I have no idea how she got my address, but she did. She somehow managed to find it. After I found out that she had my address, I started thinking, like, what else could this little girl have? Like, what does she know? She could have my work schedule for all I know. And then I started thinking a little more, like, she could have my boyfriend and my girlfriend's schedules as well. Of course, I started to panic like any other person would. So then last night, I ended up getting a message on Discord. It was a random account, like I've never seen it before. I opened the message, I read it, and it says, "Are we official yet?" So then I responded and I was like, "Do I know you?" And then the person replies and they say, "Yes, of course." So I replied to the message and I was like, "Do I know you?" And the reply I got was, "Yes, I was your first love, don't you know? Maybe since I decided to tell the truth, you just forgot about me." I automatically knew who it was after reading that fucking text message. Like, who knew that kids were this psychotic? So boom, I'm reading that and I'm like, okay, let's start calling my lawyer and start pressing charges. You know, I had warned her. So I'm calling up my lawyer and all this other stuff, and she texts me again. And this time she was like, "You don't need to press charges or anything. I just want to say I'm sorry." And I was just like, huh? Sorry for what? I was just confused on why she was trying to apologize for everything. I think she was just trying to guilt trip me since she knows that I don't know how to say no. Long story short, she ended up telling me a bunch of other stuff, and she thought that telling me that she was going to off herself was gonna make me drop everything and everyone else and date her instead. But unfortunately for her, that didn't happen, and I did end up pressing charges on her for harassment. And I also got a restraining order, and she ended up going to a mental hospital afterwards. So I'm not sure what happened to her after that, but I do have many more stories like this one. It's story time, so make sure you grab a snack, sit back, relax, and let's get on with the chisme. So this story is about the time I almost got arrested over a little girl who had a crush on me. This is going to be the first half of the story because there is a second part to this story now. So let's get on with it. A little background information on this little girl. I met her while I was streaming on my live on Minecraft. Both her and I started a Minecraft world together, and it was just something normal. It was nothing strange so far. And all of my friends knew about her. They knew I would play with her. So then randomly a few weeks later, after the Minecraft world, she DMs me and she says that she has to tell me something, so I respond with, "Sure, what is it?" She then proceeds to say, "Well, I've had a crush on you ever since I first started talking to you." Just so you guys know, this little girl is 13 years old and I'm 19. 19. So I responded and I'm like, oh, well, I'm dating somebody already. Just to let the girl down easily. After I said that, she just completely switched up and she ended up blowing up on me. She responds with, well, that's probably a lie since all you do is play games all day. So then that's when I told her that I'm 19. She then responds and she was like, well, if you don't date me, I'm gonna end up calling the cops on you. I just left it like that, but then fast forward to the beginning. So she told me she was going to call the cops on me if I didn't date her, even though she was 13 and I told her that I was 19. I still told her no, even after she threatened me. But then fast forward to the beginning of 2020, right? Some cops showed up at my door claiming that I have SA'd this kid. And I had to explain to them that I'm taken by 3 different people and those people don't include a 13-year-old girl. I told her those 3 people don't include her at all, like she's not one of them. So then after many court cases and explanations, she finally decided to tell the truth. And when she did tell the truth, she said she accused me of these things because she thought I really loved her and that I was lying that I didn't. After all of this happened, I ended up blocking her on everything, and then a couple months later, like 4 weeks ago, she DM'd me saying that she wanted to make up with me. After she told me she wanted to make up, she started making sly remarks about how my girlfriend is fat, how all my boyfriends are ugly, and how she is so much better than all of them. So of course I told her off, and I told her that if she contacted me again, I would be pressing charges for harassment. I didn't press charges before because I felt bad, you know? She then said that if she can't have me, no one can have me. Of course, I lost contact with her, but some more stuff happened, so there's more to the story. Let me know if you guys want that. You already know, grab a snack, sit back, relax, cause it's chisme time. So I have this stepsister, and the whole time that we lived together, she was always jealous of me and she was always copying me. Now, at one point, me and her were really close, but then she started to snitch on me. We'll go ahead and call her Jasmine. At first, everything was fine with us, but then it started with the first time that she snitched on me. The first time this happened, I was sneaking my boyfriend into my house while everyone was sleeping, and Jasmine was the only one that I told, and I never, ever got caught in the act. But for some reason, Jasmine decided to tell her mom that I was sneaking him in, and I thought that was really fucked up that she snitched me out. And I think it's really weird that Jasmine snitched on me when I also knew stuff about her too. Like how she snuck a guy into the house she met on the 3rd day of school and she did the deed with him in the house. And how I also heard that she would actually try to do that constantly with other guys, but they would always decline her because she didn't have good hygiene down there. So yes, I could have used all of these things against her. But after the first time she snitched me out, I soon realized that Jasmine just couldn't be trusted. The second time something like this happened, I had this pen. And I kept it to myself because I knew she would snitch. The second time something like this happened, I had this pen and I kept it to myself because I knew that Jasmine would snitch. And this one specific day, we went to the garage at the same time. And that's when my pen fell out of my pocket and she saw it. And in my head, I was thinking like, fuck, this bitch is gonna snitch on me. I was getting ready for her to run into the garage and go tell our parents. But instead, she was like, oh, can I take a hit? So then after she asked me that, I thought maybe if I let her hit it, she won't snitch on me. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. Here you go. Like, you go ahead and take a hit, you know, do whatever you need to do. Fast forward to the next day, my dad comes storming into my room asking where the pen was at. Because she snitched on me. Again. Like, the fact that I let her take a hit from the pen and she still snitched on me. So then later on, I ended up getting a hickey from my boyfriend and I tried to hide it from her too, but she ended up seeing it and she snitched on me again. And not to mention, I also ended up telling her a secret that I never told anyone else. And she also ended up telling my mom and my dad. So ever since then, I'll never trust anyone again because that secret was so deep and I felt so close to her at the time that I could tell her that secret and she did me dirty like that. So all I have to say to you guys is fuck that bitch, and the next time I see her, we're gonna tussle. We're gonna fight. Story time, so make sure you grab a snack, stay back, relax, and let's get on with the chisme. So this actually happened a week ago. My so-called best friend and I were hanging out at my house because she slept over the night before. Now, I can't say it on here, but we both smoke you know what. And we were trying to use my battery and it died in the middle of taking a hit. So I went to go and look for my charger, but I couldn't find it, and my best friend's sister lives right around the corner. So that's when my best friend was like, hey, do you want to go see if my sister has one? We could just use it really quick. So I said yes, and we ended up walking over there, and her sister wasn't there, so we decided to walk back to my place. So then she ended up texting her mom that we walked over to her sister's house, and her mom ended up calling her after we got back to the house, telling her that she's coming to pick her up and that she's in a lot of trouble. Now, of course, I was confused because why would she be in trouble for walking to her sister's house of all places? Why would she get into trouble for that? So then we get back to my house, and obviously I'm still confused because I don't know what's going on. Now we're all just waiting for her mom to get there. So then her mom finally gets to my house. She gets out of the car and she was like, I need to talk to your mom. So I go. So my best friend's mom finally pulls up and she's like, go get your mom, I need to talk to her. Still confused, I go and I grab my mom, and as we're walking back to the living room, I just hear my best friend's mom go, you fucked up. Me and my mom looked at each other and we were like, oh shit, this isn't gonna end well. My best friend's mom then continued to yell at her and she was like, you put another parent's kid in danger, like what were you thinking? And I was like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Tell me why my best friend's mom straight up said her sister's boyfriend is a rapist and he microwaved a cat. I looked at my mom and I gave her the what the actual fuck look. Her mom just kept going off and she told her that she needs to apologize and that she needs to make better decisions because something could have happened. Of course she apologized, but I don't trust her and she's not my friend anymore. It's story time, so make sure you grab a snack, sit back, relax, and let's get on with the chisme. And also trigger warning, because this one talks about some stuff that might trigger you guys. So my mom still doesn't believe that I was M-worded from the ages of 5 to 11 years old. I told her multiple times, and I told her who it was on multiple occasions, to the point where I just gave up telling her. This continued to happen to me for more than 5 years, and every day she never believed me. Fast forward to one day when I was 19, for some reason she decided to just bring it up for absolutely no reason at all. And she was like, you're lying. You're lying about what happened to you. She kept repeating it, but I just kept ignoring her, and that got her mad. So then I got mad and I blew up, and I was like, you're just as weird as that person who did it to me. So then at that point she was pissed off, and she was telling me that she was gonna unalive me and all of this stuff. So then I called her a pinche gorda. I know it wasn't right, but she also body shamed me since I was 8, so I really didn't care at this point. So then it escalated to the point where she tried to put her hands on me. And then she got even more mad when I announced it out loud to everyone that she knew who it was, and that she didn't want to believe me because this person is very precious to her. You guys know how it is. They always love the abuser and neglect the abused, which I find really sick, by the way. Now, my dad was in the room when I announced it to everybody that my mom knew what was going on and knew who it was. My dad got really mad at her, and he started yelling at her. He was like, tell me who it is. Tell me who it is. At this point, my mom starts crying. So I ended up telling the entire family that my mom knows who's been doing this to me, and that she's technically protecting the person. After that, my dad was pissed off, and he started yelling at her to tell him who the person was. My mom started trying to fake cry, and I was just staring at her like, really? At this point, she was just mad that I aired her out in front of the entire family. So then my mom started screaming at me, and I also forgot to tell you guys that I did have a kid at that point. She was 7 months at the time, and my mom literally tried to put her hands on me with my baby in my hands. I ended up putting my daughter down because I really didn't care if she was my mom. Like, she wasn't going to disrespect me the way she was. So of course I got ready to fight back. After that, she kept screaming, and then she ended up kicking me out of the house with my daughter. And I remember her exact words were, get the fuck out of my house. But the crazy part was that I paid for the down payment for this big house, and I also paid rent. I was so tired of her that I ended up packing all of me and my daughter's stuff, and I left. After I left, I ended up telling her that I hate her and that I'll never forgive her. So then after we had this huge fight, she ended up running around everywhere telling everyone about how horrible I am and that I'm a piece of caca for calling her bad words. And she was also telling people that I was still lying about what happened to me. When I heard all of this, I was like, wow, because I could literally say worse about my mom, trust me. But 3 months later, I'm homeless at this point. I would sleep on a little bunk bed at my sister's house every now and then, but other than that, me and my daughter had nowhere to go. We were barely getting by at that point, but fast forward a little while later, like I said, after my mom kicked me out, I was homeless for 3 months with my daughter. My sister would let us sleep on one of her bunk beds, but we were barely getting by and we had nowhere to go. Fast forward to now, I was able to get somewhat stable, and I was able to get a new car. It was a BMW. And for some reason, my mom was really salty that I got a car. And I was just like, okay, well, that's pretty weird, especially for a mom. So then she started running around telling everyone that I'm a broke bitch and that I can't afford to keep up with a car like that. Which, by the way, thankfully, I am able to keep up with my payments. So then recently, my mom ended up catching COVID, and she was in the hospital with a breathing machine, and she also had pneumonia. And I was the only one out of all my siblings that hadn't called her or checked up on her. Now, I feel guilty, but at the same time, I don't. Especially because of how bad my mom has treated me throughout my life. And it's so fucked up because she protected my abuser. She would put her hands on me so much when I was a little kid, and I was already going through enough, especially struggling with the fact that my biological dad didn't even want me, which is enough for a 6-year-old little girl. And when I was 13, my grandpa passed away, and she didn't even let me go to his funeral. So if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive my mom and all of the things that she's done to me. Long story short, I hate my mom, and if she was to pass away, I don't think I'd really care. It's story time, so make sure you sit back, relax, and let's get on with the chisme. And also a trigger warning, this isn't as bad as the one from yesterday, but it's still a sensitive topic, so let's get on with it. So when I was in 1st grade, I was grabbed in a very weird way. Every day I kept telling the boy, like, please stop, I don't want you to grab me that way. And his response would always be, I know you like it. And of course, I would always respond and say, no, I don't. Then eventually I ended up telling my teacher, but she didn't believe me. And after I told her, of course, I ended up going home crying that day, and I ended up confessing to my mom and told her everything that has been happening at school. Obviously, my mom wasn't mad at me because I was about 6 years old when this happened, but my mom told me that she would go talk to the principal about it, and that's exactly what she did. The next day, she went and she talked to the principal, and the principal ended up calling my teacher down, and he was like, hey, like, has this student talked to you about any of this? Have you witnessed it? Has she tried to confide in you? Mind you, the principal was questioning my teacher in front of me and my mom. So then my teacher goes, no, she didn't tell me anything at all. I don't know anything about it. I just remember looking at my teacher like, really, pendeja? Like, I know I told you. Then that's when the principal looked at me and my mom, and he was like, well, my staff didn't see anything. Your daughter didn't say anything, so we can't do anything for you. But my teacher ended up lying about not knowing about what was happening to me. So the principal looked at my mom, and he was like, well, I can't do anything about it, and the teacher didn't hear anything, so. And of course, as any other parent would, my mom got mad, and we stormed out of the school. So then the next day I'm in class, and the same boy says to me, your plan didn't work. And then he hit me, and he was like, if you don't stop telling people what I do, I'm really gonna fuck you up. This is a little kid. So of course I go home, I tell my mom what happened again. And my mom was so pissed that she ended up going to the school again, and she told them what happened, but the principal was denying everything. So my mom was like, okay, bet, and she ended up calling the police. The cops get there, and she
tells them everything, and that's when the principal admitted to everything. So they knew what was happening to me, they just didn't care. Unfortunately, my teacher didn't get arrested, which I kind of wish she did, and my mom ended up transferring me to a different school. Fast forward a few years later, he ended up going to the same school, and I was scared thinking he was going to do it all over again, but he didn't. He actually apologized. But I didn't forgive him, and I just want to know if you guys think that I was wrong for that.